A few minutes before my night shift started, my landlord sent me a message. Your room belongs to your cousin now. If you don't move your stuff out by Sunday, we'll throw everything onto the lawn. He's going to pay us $1,200 a month. You never paid us anything. I was sitting in my car in the hospital parking lot. My shift was only a few minutes away, but I kept staring at that message for a long time. I didn't argue. At 2 o'clock that morning, I slipped the property deed and a 30-day legal notice under their bedroom door. The next morning, my landlord was screaming into my office phone. How can you throw us out of this house? My name is Hannah Brooks. I'm 32 years old and I work as a respiratory therapist at a hospital in Columbus, Ohio. I work nights. I leave home in the evening and come back after sunrise. The house where I lived was shared with my Aunt Linda, her husband Brian, and their son Tyler. At least that's how they saw it. The truth was that the house belonged to me. I read Linda's message again. You never paid us anything. That last sentence caught my attention. I locked my phone and started my shift. The emergency department was busier than usual that night. Patients kept coming in. Monitors beeped constantly. Everyone was rushing from one room to another. I didn't answer anyone. Not Linda. Not Brian. Not Tyler. About 2 hours later, Tyler sent me a text. Nothing personal. I just need your room. I slipped my phone back into my pocket. He didn't actually need my room. He wanted the larger bedroom because his girlfriend was spending most nights there. During my break, I sat in the cafeteria. My coffee had already gone cold. I opened my laptop. I searched the county property records website. I entered the address. The owner's name appeared. Hannah Elise Brooks. I downloaded the property deed. Then I texted my attorney Marcus Hale. Are you awake? He replied almost immediately. Unfortunately. I forwarded Linda's message to him. A minute later he called. Do you want to serve them notice? Yes. Are you sure? Yes. It's time. Marcus already knew the house belonged to me. He had prepared all the purchase documents 2 years earlier. I'll draft the legal notice right now, he said. Serve it tonight. About 30 minutes later the email arrived. I printed the legal notice and the deed using the hospital printer. I placed both documents inside a large envelope. During my meal break I drove home. It was just after 2 in the morning. The house was completely quiet. I unlocked the front door as quietly as I could. The kitchen was dark. The only sound came from the refrigerator humming in the corner. I slid the envelope under Linda and Brian's bedroom door. Then I left another copy of the deed on the kitchen counter. The time was 2:07 a.m. I took a picture. Then I walked upstairs. There was a strip of masking tape across my bedroom door. Someone had written one word on it. Reserved. I peeled the tape off and slipped it into my pocket. Inside my room, 2 empty moving boxes were sitting on top of my dresser. Apparently they expected me to pack quietly and disappear. I took pictures of those too. Then I grabbed my document case and returned to the hospital. Before sunrise, Linda had already called me 3 times. I ignored every call. Then Brian left a voicemail. This is our house. You can't kick us out. My shift ended at 7 that morning. While I was finishing my reports, the receptionist came over. There's a call for you on the office line. I answered it. Brian was already yelling. How can you throw us out of this house? I kept my voice calm. Because it's my house. It was Linda's mother's house. It isn't anymore. You tricked us. No. You signed every document yourself. He stopped talking. Only for a few seconds. Then he said, We're family. I answered quietly. Last night you called me a tenant. The call ended. This story didn't really begin with that text message. It started years earlier. My grandmother Ruth lived alone in that house. The property had fallen behind on taxes. The roof leaked. Repairs had piled up. Bills kept growing. Linda and Brian didn't have the money to save it. I combined my savings with a bank loan and paid nearly $86,000. I replaced the roof. I paid the overdue taxes. I cleared the outstanding debts. Then the house was legally transferred into my name through a properly documented sale. Everything was handled by attorneys. No one was tricked. My grandmother continued living there until she passed away. After she died, I allowed Linda and Brian to stay. Their rent was only $400 a month. Even then, they rarely paid the full amount. Sometimes they paid half. Sometimes they promised to pay later. I never pressured them. Eventually I moved into one of the bedrooms myself because it was much closer to the hospital. Little by little, Linda started telling people that the house belonged to her. She said it during HOA meetings. She said it to neighbors. She said it during family dinners. I never corrected her. I didn't want every family gathering to become an argument over property. Then Tyler moved back home. He had quit his job. Everyone said he'd only stay a couple of weeks. Instead, months went by. He lived in the basement. He never helped with the utility bills. One afternoon he casually said, "The upstairs bedroom is nicer." I didn't answer. A few days later Linda sent the message. "You never paid us anything." I read that sentence several times. I had purchased the house. I paid the taxes. I carried the homeowner's insurance. I paid for the new roof. I paid for repairs every single year. Apparently none of that mattered to them. All they could see was Tyler's promise to pay $1,200 a month. The next day there wasn't any dramatic confrontation. There was only paperwork. Marcus told me to save every piece of evidence. I kept every text message. Every voicemail. 2 days later I returned to the house with 2 sheriff's deputies. I had already hired movers. Linda looked shocked. "You actually brought the police? You threatened to throw my belongings outside." Tyler stood in the hallway. The lock on my bedroom door had already been changed. One deputy asked, "Who changed the lock?" Tyler quietly admitted, "I did. Mom said it's my room now." A locksmith opened the door. My clothes had been stuffed into black trash bags. My books had been tossed into boxes. Tyler's gaming monitor was sitting on my desk. I didn't say a word. The movers began carrying my belongings outside. I photographed everything. Even my grandmother's framed picture had broken glass. "That was an accident," Linda said. I didn't respond. As the last box was carried out, Brian asked, "So where are you going to live?" "In my apartment." He looked surprised. He hadn't known I had already signed a lease for a furnished apartment 2 weeks earlier. I had simply been waiting for the right moment. The following week they hired an attorney. After reviewing all the documents, their lawyer advised them to settle. The agreement was simple. They had 30 days to move out. They had to remove every false Facebook post accusing me of stealing the house. In return, I agreed not to pursue the nearly $14,000 they still owed in unpaid rent. They signed. Tyler didn't. Instead, he posted online that I had thrown my own family out because I was greedy. I never answered. Marcus saved screenshots of everything. On the final move-out day, Linda left the house keys on the kitchen counter. The garage was full of broken furniture. Garbage bags were piled in the backyard. Brian even tried to take the refrigerator. The receipt was in my name. The moving company unloaded it and put it back. I arrived that afternoon. Linda stood beside her minivan in the driveway. "Are you happy now?" I looked at the house. There were scratches across the walls. The carpet was ruined. My grandmother's old flower pot still sat on the porch. The soil inside had completely dried out. I gave her only one answer. Yes. She looked like she wanted an argument. I didn't give her one. She got into the van and drove away. I renovated the house. I replaced the carpet. I installed new locks. Every wall received fresh paint. 3 months later I sold the home to a young couple. They brought their little daughter to the showing. She spent the whole visit running around the front yard. I signed the closing papers and looked at the house one last time. For the first time in a long while, everything felt quiet. Linda and Brian now live in an apartment. Tyler didn't stay with them for very long. The $1,200 a month he supposedly promised them never became reality. He eventually moved into his girlfriend's apartment instead. Every now and then Linda adds me to a family group text. I quietly leave the conversation. Brian once left me another voicemail. "Family is more important than property." I never deleted that message, because I still remember the one that came before it. "Your room belongs to your cousin now. If you don't move your stuff out by Sunday, we'll throw everything onto the lawn. You never paid us anything." They convinced themselves they were the landlords. I simply reminded them who the owner really was. Thank you so much for staying with me until the end of this story. If it kept you engaged, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support means more than you know and helps us bring more powerful stories like this to you. Thanks again and I'll see you in the next story.